This week, Emmet and I are back with Jack Kirby's conclusion to the Mad Bomb storyline in Captain America and the Falcon, issues 198 to 200. First, don't forget to take our listener survey to let us know what we're doing right or wrong as we put this show together and choose our topics. The link is in the show notes. This is Tim.
This is Emmet.
And this is Deconstructing Comics. Welcome to Deconstructing Comics. This is Tim in Tokyo with Emmet in Country Victoria, Australia. How are you doing?
I'm very well, Tim. Thank you.
Yeah, so we're back on the Kirby Captain America story here. Talking about issues 198 through 200 this time. This is the issues are dated June, July, and August of 1976, so they would have come out somewhat before that. But this is that bicentennial-centric storyline, and these issues are coming out just before the actual bicentennial. Kind of an interesting way to observe the bicentennial story about America almost being taken over by the elite completely and driven crazy and with this mad bomb.
We are recording this in early January 2024, but we've just missed the January 6th anniversary, which again is in the news again because various personalities are trying to use that event to drum up again that sense of panic, that sense of anger, and you sort of mobilize disenfranchised people in society, saying, "Oh, election theft, blah blah blah." It's fascinating reading Kirby talking about very similar issues. Now he introduces super science and
of course,
sonic manipulation and et cetera, but it's ultimately about a group of private interest elitists manipulating the public to get the society that they want, which feels very apt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, the cover of 198 threw me when I saw it because it looked like it had nothing to do with the Mad Bomb story. It's Cap with his arms around this woman, and it says, Cap's love story. They met in the shadow of death, and not even the Falcon can save them. And they're reflected in a gun sight held by some hood who's aiming at them, and Falcon is flying up behind this hood, getting ready to stop him. And so when I saw this, this must be some kind of a side story before they get back to the Mad Bomb. But no, it actually is still the Mad Bomb story.
It's intimately involved in the Mad Bomb story. I saw this cover when we last recorded, and I saw Cap's love story because the eye is drawn to that on the cover. And I thought, okay, Kirby's dipping back into his romance comic era, because he used to write romance comics. And it is a romance. This is a romance story. I think it's quite beautiful. But it occurred to me
although there's no kissing or anything. It's interesting.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm going to get to. So it occurred to me just now that I wonder if this is a metaphor as well. I mean, you're talking the Bicentennial. And the events of the comic, we'll discuss them, but the events of the comic involve a woman who is sickly and weakened, and everyone around her is using her to manipulate people in sciences, people, to achieve their aims. And she meets Steve, and they instantly recognize one another. There's this sort of immediate recognition. And I wondered if this is a metaphor for the state of America itself. Is this the ideal of America? Is it Columbia is the feminine ideal of America? Is that what they call her?
Maybe.
Is it Columbia, or because Ireland has Hibernia and Britain has Britannia, and I thought it was Columbia for America, but I could be wrong. But yeah, that's sort of that woman who represents the nation. And Cap himself is also a symbol. He represents America in his own way as his costume figure. And it felt to me that Kirby was playing with those symbols of the ideal Captain America is fighting for, and she's now sickened and weakened because these forces are poisoning the country and trying to tear it apart.
Yeah. And feeling a lot of self-pity, too. Like, she's going to die without ever really having lived, she says. And, it is the 70s, just after Vietnam, and a lot of Americans are kind of bummed. We've got Watergate, and, the country feels like it's on the wrong track to a lot of people at that time.
And, like, Captain America is a symbol, as I've said, but the Falcon is also a symbol in a way, because, the falcon, the bird flying overhead, is frequently employed in a sort of American myth-making, the bald American eagle, etc. Falcon's role in these issues is to continually remind the reader, I'm a black man fighting for an America that has abused my ancestors. Like, he keeps saying this. Mm-hmm. And then he has a dialogue with himself about, well, maybe that's what it takes. It takes someone like me to do this so that people like me are never treated this way again. Mm-hmm. So I feel like Kirby's playing with all this symbolism. I might be overreading here, but the impact of the cover itself, when I saw it, I was like, there's something very familiar about this. And it reminded me of like old 19th century sort of editorial cartoons. And you could almost see the gun sight on Cap and the young woman as like sacrificing the national ideal on an altar, there's so many examples of that in cartooning. Of the quailing woman being attacked by some brute, and the brute is usually Irish people. Trust me, like, look this up. I'm sure I've talked about this before in this podcast, but look up Punch magazine, 19th century. There's so many representations of the Irish as like monstrous creatures, like assailing Britannia and like brutalizing her and all this kind of stuff. So that it triggered that for me, and I'm sure there was an American equivalent of that at the time. I wondered if Kirby was sort of touching in that tradition with this cover, and then with maybe some of the plotting of this issue. Yeah.
And the character's name is Carol, which starts with a C, just like Columbia. Maybe you're making the right connection there. I hadn't noticed this before, but I realized that even though the front page of each issue says Stan Lee presents Captain America and the Falcon, the text above that is just Cap's origin and not Falcon's, which is getting kind of annoying to me.
Oh, I see.
Hey, what about Falcon?
Yeah. That's true, actually. That's true. Because Falcon's been established in this book by now.
Yeah, I mean, he had been part of the title of the book before Kirby got there.
Yeah. It's interesting.
So...
But, like, Falcon's story is... I mean, I think the person who did some really interesting stuff with Falcon was Christopher Priest in The Crew. And that was, my God, Tim, 20 years ago. But, like, Falcon's really interesting as a character, but I feel as if you stop a Marvel fan on the street, let's not assume a common joke, but you stop hey, what's Falcon's origin story? They will not know.
I can't remember it myself.
The movies sort of downsize him into he was an ex-serviceman who worked with drones, and that's the whole flight thing with him. And he's something of a sort of aerialist to interact with his drones. But yeah, that was sort of like he's a veteran. He's been through it, and now he's come out the other end, and he's now committed to. And a lot of that was Winter Soldier. So I kind of find it funny that his story doesn't really get dwelled on, but Kirby's employing him in these comics as he's a black man in America in the 1970s, calling America to account for what's happened to his ancestors, which it's fascinating stuff.
Yeah, just checking here. So actually his first appearance was in Captain America, issue 117. But yeah, I'd have to read through here what his actual origin was. We can maybe get to that in the future. So yeah, let's keep going here. So we've started out, they've found that bunker, but it doesn't have the mad bomb in it. So they're kind of feeling like they didn't really accomplish anything. They still haven't found the mad bomb. They don't know where it is. And time is running out. So, but we get the big 2-page splash again of, this time the arresting the lower level people who were left behind by the elites. The guys with weird helmets on, not the conehead soldiers, but it's kind of like the AIM type head covering. Not quite the same, but
the coneheads make a comeback later. Yeah, we get to see the coneheads again, but yeah, they look like AIM officers. Yeah,
and we get a picture of the mad bomb, which we'll see again throughout these 3 issues, and the design of it has all these circles on the front of it. It kind of reminded me of Thor's original costume that had circles across the front of it. Also, it's touching off some memories of Watchmen for me too. Here's our Alan Moore reference for this episode.
There you go. Take a drink. I've got tea.
I can't quite put my finger on it, but I feel like there was something that had circles on it in Watchmen. I haven't read Watchmen in quite a while.
The mad bomb in Watchmen, if you like, the device in Watchmen also was meant to have a creature in it, like a fantastical creature in it. So that sort of meshing of technology and some sort of oversized creature. Here we've got the brain contained in the casing, and it's referred to as Big Daddy as well. The circles and the connected circles are very reminiscent of New God technology as well. So it's just it's a design quirk of Kirby's, but I think you're onto something there. I think I found these issues, I found the Mad Bomb overall a very interesting, politically engaged storyline. So I can absolutely believe Alan Moore read it and, would maybe have been lifting from it. And given that Watchmen 2 is a sort of product of post-70s disillusionment and paranoia, Nixon's literally a character in Watchmen. I can see that. That's a good connection.
But Cap and Falcon are talking with this general whose name is not mentioned anymore. I forgot to look up what his name had. Remember, it was this really amusing name, but Fist, was it?
Fist. Maybe.
I should check my old notes. That'd be the easiest way. General Argyle Fist.
There we go. Boom. He's a man's man. And he's not going to brook any lollygagging from Cap and Falcon. He's like, nope, we did what we came to do. Like, we this wasn't a wasted effort. There was this, we achieved things today, because they're saying, oh, what was the point? They got rid of the bomb. It's on the road somewhere. It's going to go off. He's like, nope. We accomplished something.
And the general mentions that agents have spotted Mason Harding, the electronics genius, who seems to have been the person who conceived and designed the mad bomb. So Harding needs to be captured.
Yeah, I forgot that, because then we get stuck into the story. But I remember when I was reading this and that was introduced, it was like, oh, so you've now made a couple of deductive leaps. You've actually, because previously the Mad Bomb technology was like, what is this? Like, they were completely in the dark about it. And I was like, oh, we know who created it. Oh, yeah, well, we know who it is.
They kind of need some more knowledge or the story's not going to progress. Yeah.
Yeah, because they've come up short. Like, there's no documentation. There was nothing there. So now it's like, oh yeah, we know who it is. We have his address.
Yeah, otherwise it's kind of like I don't know, and then the mad bomb goes off, and that's the end.
That's it.
So now we see Harding with his daughter Carol, who is the woman on the front cover. She's lying in bed, and there are a couple of big muscular guys standing behind him. And she has some kind of illness. It's never mentioned exactly what it is, but she's been sick for some time apparently, and he's at this house to visit her. And what comes out is that it was a little unclear to me. So she's not like a prisoner there, but they're taking care of her. And I guess, if they wanted to threaten her, they could, to manipulate him.
Yeah. There's that famous "It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia" scene with Dennis Reynolds where he talks about, because of the implications. There's this implied threat to her well-being. That's why she's there. And the men who are there with her, like her father says, he's doing some secret government work, but they're so unnecessarily aggressive and rude and vulgar. Even the way they speak, you got a full schedule and all that jazz. Like, they're contemptuous towards him. So, like, they're not really hiding that, no, we are threatening men and we will do a bad thing if you push us. So they've got him under their thumb.
And so Harding and the tough guys leave, and someone, I imagine from S.H.I.E.L.D., is watching through binoculars and talking to someone on some kind of a handheld TV communicator. You can see the guy's face on the other end, and it's kind of a walkie-talkie with pictures.
Yeah, he's Skyping. He's making a Skype call.
Yeah, it's a tiny. Yeah, it's kind of a smartphone predecessor.
Yeah, it is. Kirby came up with smartphones. It looks like a mix of a smartphone and a razor.
Yeah, electric razor. The bottom of it there looks kind of like what you would expect the top of an electric razor to look like.
Yeah. But it's a communications device.
Kind of the right size and shape. Yeah.
It has a video capacity to live stream video. So he's Kirby again. Prophet.
Yeah. So he's told, return to base and 2 new men will take over when you leave, presumably meaning Cap and Falcon.
Yeah.
And so we see Carol. She's feeling sorry for herself and crying in bed at night.
Before we go on, sorry, just on that scene that just concluded. So you've got the agent. He sees that the professor is being manhandled away from the house. He keeps coming back to the house. He reports in. He's told you're going to be relieved. Blah blah blah. We've got one last panel with this guy. Mm-hmm. And this issue overall, there's something really poetic about it. Like there's little, because it's romantic, there's all these little sort of flights of fancy in terms of the language, both the dialogue and some of the descriptions for some scenes. So this last panel, the government agent cuts short his vigil and leaves as silently as he came. He makes his way to the sand dunes, where the woods thin out and the sound of the sea covers his departure. And we see him as this lone figure. There's a car in the sort of middle foreground, and then this like oceanic range of sand, the sand dunes that look like cresting waves. And there's something beautiful about it. Like, it's just a beautiful combination of word and image. And yeah, I just felt like Kirby was feeling himself here. I'm gonna have a restful moment in this comic.
Yeah, I'm a little puzzled by this panel. I mean, the caption mentions both sand dunes and the ocean. Yeah. And I'm trying to figure, I mean, there's a car there that's clearly on a beach, but is that sand or ocean in the background?
Right. That actually is the ocean.
Oddly colored.
It's oddly, yeah, it's not colored correctly. That is the ocean, because then we later on see Steve and Carol. Right. By the beach. Mm-hmm. So he's descending towards it. Yeah, it's funny that I was like, oh, it's this beautiful sand.
Well, it does say sand dunes, and it looks kind of like sand dunes with the color that they put on it. But yeah, I think it maybe, since is it night? It's night, so maybe that's why it's colored that way. But
like the sand itself still has like some brush on it. Like it's not really sand. Still, like, that aside, I think it's quite a beautiful little beat.
Yeah. So she's crying in her bed, and Cap comes in the window, And
it's like Twilight.
Yeah, he turns into a vampire. And, no.
I watch you while you're sleeping.
And yeah, they have some kind of connection almost immediately. I mean, like I said, nothing like physical touching or anything really happens. I mean, like touching an arm or something, but that's about it. But yeah, I mean, she can tell that he's a good person and he appreciates her confidence in him.
But also there's like this libidinal energy off the charts here. So, the stranger comes forward in the dim light. He is like no man Carl has ever seen. His garb is like none worn by any other man. He is like a fantasy which has finally come true. And it's like, oh my goodness. Oh, Mr. Darcy, I'm undone.
Yeah, that's totally romance comics.
Yeah. But it's also fantastical as well. Like, it's this idea of this figure coming to her in the night, and she's been trapped in this bed all this time, and she's like just frustrated that she hasn't got to experience anything, and she's waiting for death. And then this man appears in her bedroom, and all of a sudden she's like flush with excitement and energy.
Yeah, she's feeling a whole lot better. Clearly.
Yeah, straight away.
And they arrange to meet on the beach tomorrow, which turns out to be, I mean, it's kind of a double purpose, because I think he does really want to talk with her and connect with her, but he also wants to get her out of the house so that Falcon and S.H.I.E.L.D. can come in and arrest all the other bums.
Yeah, so he's intrigued by her, like he says that to her, and he's very upfront about it. But yeah, there's this sense of this actually is convenient for the mission too, and it actually does work out. Like, it draws them out. We'll get to that, but there is this sense of it. It's a twofer.
Yeah, I mean, you could. I was like, does he really care about her? Is he just getting her out of the house? Yeah, there was something genuine there, even though it had a second purpose.
I think he genuinely does care for her. I think it is sincere, but he's also, a man with a mission. So, I find it interesting that we've just concluded the previous storyline where we had the bunker people. And in that storyline, we had Miss Chadwick, who is the daughter.
She's gone.
Well,
we never see her again.
We don't see her again, but she's like Carol's, polar opposite.
Yeah.
Carol, if we're following my metaphor, is sort of sickened by the state of the nation, but she's in a bad way. Whereas Chadwick is like excited, and she's playing roles and she's pretending to be just this flirtatious go girl, but meanwhile she's actually plotting with her father, and she's excited by bloodshed and battle and the sort of Colosseum space, and so there's this sort of sense of the dangerous woman and the sort of the woman who's passionate but like good, and two sides of the same coin almost. And Cap's more interested in this one. He was also sort of, not going out of his way to harm Chadwick, but then he didn't brook any nonsense from her.
Yeah, well, he was tricked by her. He didn't realize her ulterior motive for helping him.
I didn't quite follow that. I assumed he was playing along, because I thought he was like, well, if we just keep talking to her, we won't have to immediately fight for our lives. And then he basically worked the system of this, tournament that she was presiding over and used it against them to win the day. But I still feel as if there was something interesting happening there. There was a charge there as well. But he's more open to this one.
And I loved how when he tells Falcon, nothing must happen to that girl, Falcon says, oh, great. That's just great, man. Does that mean we wait until she's well enough to leave for a vacation?
He just immediately starts giving him shit.
But no, he has this plan to get her out of the house. And interestingly, he shows up as Steve, not as Cap.
He shows up as Steve and she immediately recognizes him.
Right. Yeah. She says, oh, that's him. And they're riding on a horse along the beach. Like super romance novel. And there is somebody who tries to shoot at them. They're actually two guys, and Falcon takes them out with little problem, and a bunch of S.H.I.E.L.D. guys descend and tie them up. And then they storm the house.
That's like the Kaz's belly to like, okay, let's invade now because they took a shot, so now we can go.
And then now there's no page numbers. After the scene of them storming the house, then we go back to Cap and Carol on the beach, and they're talking, and then that last panel with the sound effect blop. I could not figure out what was happening until I turned it looked like the top of his head exploded.
Oh my God, it's Cyclops.
I didn't notice that off to the side there is a sphere there, which turns out to be like a basketball that someone has thrown at him and hit him in the head.
Why are they playing basketball on the beach?
Yeah, kind of tough to dribble on the beach.
Why are they playing, if it was football, fine. If it was an American football, fine. But it's clearly a basketball.
Right.
It looks like
kind of tough to play with that on a rough surface like that. So these guys, they're not part of the gang. They're just some goofballs who were in the neighborhood. And they call him College Boy, Steve, and kind of challenging him to a fight. And of course he beats the crap out of them. And one of them, when he picks up this big rock to throw at them, one of the guys says, "The guy's a nut. He must think he's Captain America." And then Carol gloms on to that's who he is. I mean, we mentioned last time, there are a lot of people in this comic who don't recognize Captain America, and they never heard of the guy. And she apparently didn't, although now that she's got that name, she's saying, okay, yeah, you're Captain America. But it's not clear that she knew who Captain America was before this issue.
Yeah. But we'll get back to it later on with Tori, because, there we've got the idea of he's directly obsessed with Steve Rogers. He knows who Steve Rogers is, not because of Captain America. He actually knows who Steve Rogers is as a descendant of the person who humiliated his family.
Right, and he thinks Steve Rogers is a weakling who didn't get into the army. He doesn't know the whole story.
Yeah. It's basically the lodestone of his whole obsession, which is that this guy's ancestor humiliate my family. Now look at what that familial line has produced. This weakling who couldn't even serve in the army. It's almost like that was his entire motivation for everything.
Yeah.
This is the whole inciting incident.
Yeah, that's how it feels in issue 200. Yeah.
It's very strange. But I feel like this sequence, I'm now more convinced than ever that this is all a metaphor. This is sort of allegorical. This is about what does America want itself to be. I mean, the guys who target Steve and call him College Boy, so somebody who wants to better himself, who's gone to college, who's gone into higher learning. One of them's wearing a Jake's Garage t-shirt, and they're sort of I think they're being framed as people from a lower social class who've just been left to believe that's all there is, just aggression and not getting anywhere and full of resentment. And what the subtext of this storyline seems to be is that the mad bomb will trigger violence across the country, and maybe you don't need a mad bomb. Maybe America is just that close for everything to just go into chaos, because you've got these elements in society who feel like they're owed some. They know that they're being mistreated. They know that they haven't got the best kind of life. So But instead of doing something productive about it, they're being encouraged into aggression and violence and resentment. And that's what I think this sequence is about again. And he intimidates them. He talks about like how he's employing some psychology in doing that to Carol. But I feel as if there's this sense of what is Captain America in a society that fails its people. Like, what's the point of Captain America? So there's a sort of a dialogue with that question happening here. And as you say, they don't kiss, but there's this sort of physical intimacy between them, between Carol and Steve. There's something happening here that's beyond, heavy petting on a beach. I think this is like, is the ideal still worth fighting for? Is there something here that's still worth preserving? The American experiment,
And he says she seems to have an amazing amount of wisdom, and she says it's said that all truth is revealed to those who are about to die. So she's still feeling like she's done for here. In the story, all of America it could die because of the mad bomb. So
yes.
So she might be echoing the actual threat to the whole country in the story.
Yeah, she's sort of responding to it almost. And then we see the title of the next story is "The Man Who Sold the United States." So again, that is something that we're dealing with. We're dealing with this idea of America is being portrayed on like a fundamental level. That's what this story is all about. Yeah. It's juicy stuff, Tim. I really love this issue. I thought I was when I saw that cover, as I said, I was like, oh God, this is going to be a bit trite, but I really thought it was sweet and it was beautiful. And some of the exchanges between Steve and Carol are really lovely. Like there's this romantic energy that is very sincere in this issue. And a lot of it's about two people who just see each other, and that's it. They just see each other, and they value each other, and there's something really beautiful about that. And yeah, Jack Kirby wrote romance comics, but I always understood them to be, Debbie pining for Rick, Rick stepping out with Susie, and Debbie wishes you'd look her way, But this is more than that. This is yearning and wanting to have a future, and yeah. Oh, it was a special little piece. It's a nice little interlude. And there's also some fighting. If you want some fighting, there's some fighting in here.
Yeah, of course.
Well, it's gorgeous.
In a moment, we'll talk about issues 199 and 200. But first, be sure to join us for 20th Century TV and music trivia quiz videos and more on our Patreon page. Patrons donating $4 a month or more get access to hours of additional podcasts. Get all the info at patreon.com/deconcomics.
Do you like comics?
The 1960s?
How about middle-aged gay couples gossiping about their neighbors?
Then you'll love Checkered Past, a loving examination of DC's Go-Go Check branded comic magazines published from February 1966 to August 1967.
I'm Dr. Bob.
And I'm Dr. Husband.
And each week we'll be your hosts on a trippy tour through mid-century four-color madness.
Checkered Past.
Available wherever fine podcasts are downloaded for free.
So 199 cover shows an explosion. You can kind of make out that it's a car that's exploding, which does happen in this issue. And Cap and Falcon are being thrown by the explosion, and a little burst on the cover says, "The Marvel explosion starts here. Meet the man who sold the United States and die." Well, I won't meet him, but I'll meet him, but I'm still alive, so...
You're gonna die, though.
So, yeah, it's a bit of exaggeration, but...
So, the Marvel explosion. So, is this when... Because we have the Marvel implosion, which is where, like, they lost a bunch of books.
Yeah, I don't know that if it's what exactly it's referring to. I don't think that there's any actual like event called the Marvel explosion. I think it's just supposed to make you think, Marvel's going to get better and better from this point or something.
Yeah, let me just quickly. Yeah, because my understanding was the Marvel implosion was the bottom fell out of the market for them basically. So I was just checking to see. Yeah, that's not going to help me.
Okay.
Because now we've got people talking about the. Okay, sorry. There was the DC implosion. Completely wrong. Sorry, completely wrong. All right, let's move on. Ignore what I just did.
So, Cap is in. Well, he mentions that he's in a house that he's trying to make sure has been cleared of human rats. I assume that this is the house that Carol was in, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, because they're still in the house with her.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, this is the same house where Falcon and S.H.I.E.L.D. have been arresting people, but as we can see in the foreground, there's still some quote-unquote human rats left, one with a sword, one with a gun, and Cap doesn't see them yet, but then in the 2-page splash following, he will definitely see them because they're attacking him, and Falcon's coming in, and a third guy is also, well, let's see, 2 people are shooting, one, and then we got the guy with the sword also, who has tried to jump on Cap and missed.
Yeah, but on the first page, we also saw that, because one of them was holding this giant broadsword, we saw that there's another sword that is held to the wall by a piece of heraldry on a shield, and the heraldry has 3 crowns on a red field with what might be a dragon or a serpent of some kind, and so there's this idea that the conspiracy is fawning over the British aristocracy that was formerly in charge of America before the War of Independence. So there's everything's about it is like it's like cosplaying as British lords, basically.
So we get a fight scene, and Falcon and Cap beat up these guys, and then we see more S.H.I.E.L.D. guys coming in. And Carol is still there. Later we hear that she's gone someplace else to have the best care possible. But so apparently she lives. Well, I mean, America lives in the story too, but at the beginning of this issue, they're both still considered to be in danger.
America's on life support.
Yeah, apparently she knows what her father's involved in. It was never actually told to her, but Cap says she always suspected it, but said nothing because she feared the others. And Carol is now sitting up. She looks like she's sitting at a... Is she sitting at a desk or something?
I think she's on a lounge chair.
Okay. But she's not in bed anymore. Then she's not wearing pajamas.
She's going through the plans for Big Daddy. This is very Freudian.
Yeah. And she's afraid that they're going to kill her father, but Cap says, no, we want your father in sound condition. He's our best lead to the location of that giant mad bomb. And she feels like it's partly her fault because of her being sick and in this place. But there's some more kind of feeling of romance here. They kind of got their arms on each other and looking at each other. But still, we don't see any kissing. So, it's kind of a romance. Maybe it's something. I mean, if she symbolizes America, I think it kind of would be a little weird if he started making out with her.
He says to her, "I wish you only the best." So, he just wants her as a friend. No, I don't think she's like what I termed before. What I was trying to get at was, I think she's the American ideal. I think like she's an idea of America. So I think there is sort of passion there. There is love there. But I don't know if it's, as you say, sexual love. I don't think it's necessarily like going to be expressed that way, but there is something happening there between them, and I think they just feel an intimacy between them.
Yeah, and then we see Harding is meeting with Malcolm Tari, the guy heading up this conspiracy. Harding says, "I demand to visit my daughter, Tari. That was part of my deal with you. The feds are throwing a lot of heat around, Harding. You gotta lay low like the rest of us." I think is that the tough guy is saying that, the flunky. And Tari says, "Explanations won't suffice for an anxious father. It would be wise to put Harding under restraint for the present." And so they're holding him back here, maybe dragging him out of the room. Well, they're going to. Then they throw him down in another room, and then we see that he's got a tiny mad bomb in his pocket that he pulls out.
This is cool. This is very cool. I really like this bit.
And now has some kind of immunity to it that he gives to Cap and Falcon later, but did he ever reveal what it was? I don't think we ever saw what was causing the immunity.
It seems to be like the bearer of this device, which is like transmitting sonic waves that's causing the aggression, is immune. And I wonder if it's because they're the broadcast point, like it's coming from them, so they're not going to be impacted by it. But I did wonder about that because it's like, well, it's sonic waves, so like, you know, he's going to hear it. He's going to be affected by it.
And I kind of felt like it was just that Kirby decided that's not important. There's some way to be immune. Don't worry about what it is. Just, you know, so, they can be immune, so they're not going to be driven mad.
Yeah, the way that would necessarily have to work then is that if Cap and the Falcon are walking about, they would each have to have one on them. They would each have to have. And same goes for any shield agents. They would all have to have one, because how far is the transmission rate of this device? We see it impacting people in hallways or neighboring rooms. So if you were like going past on a paper route or something, sucks to be you. Like if you have to within range. Yeah. You know, that was my first thought. I was like, well, how far does this thing go?
But yeah, he uses it on these two guys, and one of them shoots the other one, and then the one who got shot, Harding, picks up his gun and shoots the first guy.
Who was always wearing shades indoors, I noticed as well. He's like the missing Blues brother. But yeah, it's just he's the very rude one. So yeah, he comes to a bad end, which is good.
And then when Harding goes into the hallway, he sees two other guys duking it out because they've also been affected. So Harding goes out the window and says it's better to pay for one's mistakes than to continue them. And we switch back to the house, and Cap is there, and he sees a car coming that matches the one that S.H.I.E.L.D. told him Harding would be in. So he's going to go out and meet the car, but the car is just about to where he is, or looks like he's chasing it in this next panel. But then Falcon swoops in. "No, Cap, look out. I've been trailing that car. It's a setup." And Cap doesn't realize what's going on. He's, "Falcon, let go. Let me go. What are you doing?" And then it explodes. And so Falcon has once again saved Cap's bacon. So Cap would have died a long time ago without teaming up with the Falcon.
I'm watching the second season of Reacher on Amazon Prime at the moment, which is, as the author of John Dies at the End memorably described, a show about a man larger than the problems he has to face. He beats his problems up because he's bigger than his problems. You know, Alan Richardson's the actor's name, I believe, and he's a very big dude. But this is very similar to that series. There's all sorts of like car bombs going off, and, you know, his allies like pull him back at the last possible second, or lots of chase scenes, and, you know, sudden ambush attempts by gunmen. Like there's all it's familiar stuff.
Yeah. Okay. So he's saved Cap, and the car with the dummies in it has exploded. It wasn't the real car. Harding is not there yet. So they're still puzzling over how they're going to find Big Daddy, and then Harding arrives, and he's asking where Carol is. Yeah, Falcon says, your daughter is where she can receive the finest in medical treatment, but she'll die with the rest of us if the Big Daddy mad bomb goes off.
Oh, so they sent her to Cuba. Oh, yes.
Okay.
This scene is interesting because you got a bit of good cop, bad cop happening here with Falcon. Falcon's really like laying it down hard, and like Cap's like, "Come on, guy, work with us. Still, be reasonable."
Yeah, Falcon says, whatever happens to you, can it be as bad as knowing what your invention will be used for? A mass madness which will set family against family. Where is that mad bomb, man? Tell us.
Okay, calm down. Get it off your chest. They're literally doing good cop, bad cop.
So, yeah, there's a lot more talk here, but I think the actual explanation is not shown. And Harding calls himself the man who has sold the United States to those creatures.
Got it. Yeah, he literally did it to pay for his daughter's medical treatment.
Yeah.
And that's what this is about. It's about the American healthcare system.
Right. There wasn't even Obamacare yet at this point. It's just, lots of uninsured people.
Yeah.
And I guess being a scientist is kind of a freelance job. Maybe he's not. He mentions he got fired from his job, so he must have lost his health care. That's the whole problem here.
He's been tending to his daughter for so many years. So I really wanted to get to this because there's a character introduced here at the bottom of this page. Oh, sorry, you're as you mentioned before. Harding gives them the device and it says, "Oh, this will. I've created a way to counteract the effect.
When I give you immunity from its effect, your aim to destroy the large one will succeed." So he's going to give them the immunity, but is it like a device. Pill or what? We never find out.
We never find out how it works, but like it works. So trust. Yeah. Trust
don't worry about it.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Super science. But the character at the bottom of the page who's talking to Tori, who's the chap with the monocle.
Heshine.
Heshine. Okay, so there's a bit of dialogue later, which I think is clearly Tori speaking, but the dialogue balloon is coming out of Heshine. And I also wasn't sure if the Mr. Big character we met in the previous storyline is here. Like, is that Heshine or is that somebody else? Do we ever meet that character again? Was there a missing chapter? Was there some other stuff that was meant to happen and it got downsized? I don't know. But yeah, I was looking out for that character and I was wondering if the daughter was going to reappear, but she doesn't.
And so Tari is saying the time is at hand, and he tells his men to activate Big Daddy, activate the bomb. He's talking to this guy on a screen who looks kind of like he's trying to look like Moon Knight. He's all white, but he doesn't have a mask on. You can see his actual face, but it's pure white.
Oh, I would not have pulled that, but okay, yeah. But again, when he says activate Big Daddy, it's one of those fortunate instances where it's like activate the device. Cut to half a day later, it's ready to go.
Right, yeah, you can't just flip a switch and it's on. There has to be some kind of a delay to give the heroes a chance to stop it.
Yeah, you mentioned Watchmen earlier on, but like which is the exact opposite of that, which is, yeah, I turned it on 35 minutes ago. It's already done. Do you think I'd tell you my plan without like just doing it? Yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe I'll more read this.
And the guy says, activate Big Daddy. The other men say, Yahoo, this is our day. When Big Daddy stops screaming, we'll own this country. Now, apparently these guys all have the immunity too, right? They wouldn't be so happy about it if unless they don't have the immunity and they don't know they need it. I don't know.
Maybe that's what they're cone heads. Maybe that's what the cones are for.
Yeah, well, these guys don't have cones on their heads, though. They've got kind of like executioner's hoods with the face cut out. And yellow executioner hoods. From this moment on, action, action, action. Don't miss the big bicentennial climax in the dawn's early light.
We're really sorry we gave one issue of this storyline to a romance plot. We're going to have lots of fighting now, guys. Stop writing your angry letters.
So issue 200, surprisingly, doesn't seem to have been double size unless they had reprints in the back. But what we've got here is just like a normal issue length. Well, and the price is 25 cents, just like the other ones. So I guess it must have been the same size. But Falcon's name has disappeared from the masthead because it says special bicentennial issue there. Falcon's picture is still there on the upper right side, but yeah, his name is not. And then on the 200th anniversary of the United States, America will die and only Captain America can save it. Well, you just said America will die, so apparently nobody's saving it. America might die. America's in danger of dying. But we see Cap in the foreground, Falcon flying behind him, and a bunch of soldiers, I guess, from S.H.I.E.L.D. And some Kirby crackle in the background.
Of course. And Falcon's, the coloring around Falcon's feet make it so I thought there were lobster claws being held up as well. But no, it's because it's the explosion of yellow, and then he's got red and yellow shoes, and yeah, that's what's happening there.
Okay, so issue 200, and Cap is being followed by a bunch of these S.H.I.E.L.D. guys as they're approaching. So they've got what the caption says is a strangely constructed machine. And I guess now they've gotten the scoop from Harding now. So they've got this sonic wave projector. It's got enough power to wipe out a company of men. Thanks to your informant, we were prepared to deal with it. Okay, so he's told them how to stop this thing, how to shut down this machine. Had we gone in cold, well, that would have been another ball game. Okay, so they would have played sports instead of saving America. Well, but baseball is the national pastime, so.
Not basketball on the beach.
No. So then they can proceed because they've shut down this machine, and they get to a wall, and they've got kind of a electronic periscope to look over the wall, and they see a conehead soldier over there with his back conveniently turned to the wall, so he doesn't see anything.
You know, the concept of periscopes exists. So you've got the idea of use of mirrors to see using a device that extends. But again, we're seeing Kirby showing video technology. This is all video technology.
Yeah, it's Dick Tracy stuff.
Yeah, it is totally Dick Tracy stuff. Yeah. So yeah, I just find it funny that's the technology. It's basically a selfie stick.
Right. So they know that there are a few sentries over there, conehead sentries. So then they all go over the wall, and the conehead in the foreground on the next page doesn't even seem to hear anything behind him. He's just staring off into space, and then in the next panel, he's on the ground. And then we get some action as they're beating up other conehead soldiers.
Oh my goodness! Yeah, a lot of taking on multiple enemies at once with a firm kick to the chest.
And meanwhile, Falcon is in Philadelphia flying towards the Torrey Towers building. And, well, as we'll see soon enough, in the top of the... too many T's. In the top of the Torrey Towers building is where the Mad Bomb is. The Big Daddy. And so Falcon flies in, takes out some conehead soldiers.
Right, because we were asking about this last time, weren't we? We were having a little conversation about where do you think they're going to put the mad bomb. It'll have to be somewhere significant. It can't be the Lincoln Bell because that's too obvious. The Liberty Bell, rather. Sorry,
Liberty Bell,
or the Lincoln statue. It has to be something. Is it going to be the torch of the Statue of Liberty? Is it going to be something like that? No, it's a building that the villain owns, so it's not actually a landmark. Because we were trying to figure out, it has to be a landmark,
fictional landmark.
It's a fictional building.
And so he comes across these two coneheads who are smoking and talking about how they're going to live like kings after the mad bomb goes off, because now somehow they think that they're going to enslave all these people who've been driven crazy and killing each other. That doesn't quite seem plausible to me, but...
No. That's what they're all really excited about. So these people will be sent into a state of insensibility. They will be just... extremely violent, but they'll also, I mean, in effect, it's the theme that Kirby keeps going back to in his DC work as well. They'll be like animals. So that's how a lot of slave owners saw men and women that they owned. They saw them as animals. So these people want to return to slavery. That's what this is all about. They want to own people again. And that's how they're going to, I can't wait. Gonna be owning people. It's gonna be great. That's the villains of this story.
And this is the place you were talking about before, where just before this, as Falcon is getting into the building, he's thinking about, it's a cruddy job to be doing in the very hour of America's Bicentennial celebration. An ironic deal for a black man, too, the direct descendant of a cotton-picking slave. Perhaps this is the very reason that a black man must do this job, so that slavery can never happen again. Not here, not anywhere.
Yeah, I'm like, this is not me. I wonder if Carol is Columbia. I mean, this is textual. It's in the text. They say the loud part. They say the quiet part loud here.
Yeah, and there was another place, I think we might have missed it, where Cap is talking about losing hope, and Falcon's talking about how in the ghetto you're born that way, and it can really get you down if you let it. I think we may have missed that part, but
I think that serves again to underline this idea of Falcon, confronting Cap with, you have the privilege to feel bad about this. I don't get to feel bad about this. I have to fight this. You get to sort of suddenly realize, even the fact about the story, the previous issue where we had the discussion around Cap's ancestry, and Sam's like, well, your ancestors owned slaves. And I'm sure they didn't. There's no record of that. And I said, no, they did. Just didn't even talk about it. That's all.
And so when he comes on these coneheads who are fantasizing about living like kings, he says, "It hasn't happened yet, you scheming dum-dums," and he slams their heads together. Crack. And so then he calls in the S.H.I.E.L.D. guys. Okay, so on this page where he calls in the S.H.I.E.L.D. soldiers, the last panel, did you notice something weird in the art here? The guy on the monitor, the conehead soldier who's saying, "Wah, who in blazes are you?" as he sees Falcon. So it looks to me like Kirby has drawn this in 3D. And so it looks like it's a guy standing in a box that has a hole in front of his face rather than on a TV screen. Because he's off to one side for us, looking at it kind of kitty corner, and you can see the corner and the wall directly behind.
There's a pillar or something. Yeah, it's creating a 3D effect.
Yeah, as if you were as if you were actually standing there, and that wall is actually here rather than, if on a TV screen, he should, even though we're looking at it kind of diagonally, he should be in the center still, and it should be kind of a flat representation of what's actually directly behind him.
Right, got it.
But I was kind of weirded out by this panel, like, but this guy's standing in a box.
He's a mime. He's stuck in a box.
Right.
Yeah, but this I'm going through a bit of a Star Wars kick at the moment. I'm which has murdered my YouTube algorithm because all of a sudden I'm just getting lots of fascist jumped up arses who are whinging about wokeness in Star Wars. So if there's a way for me to correct that, I'd be really helpful. But it would be very helpful. But yes, this sequence reminded me of that scene with Harrison Ford in the first Star Wars movie where he's talking to the stormtrooper or the Death Star employee on a sort of radio device. And he's like, "Oh yeah, boring conversation anyway."
Yeah, he zaps the communicator. Yeah, it was boring conversation anyway. Yeah, this is kind of that, like a year earlier. So
it's very similar.
Once again, Kirby probably watched Star Wars and said, "I wrote that first. What do you?"
God damn
it! Because Falcon, when the Conehead says "Feds," Falcon says, "Darn right, you snake-eyed animal," and he smashes the monitor.
I miss this Falcon. Falcon tends to be a bit too centrist and reasonable in some of the books I've read him in. Notably not written by Christopher Priest. I miss this Falcon who's just like, he just insults everybody then punches them.
Yeah, he's mad as hell and he's not going to take it anymore.
Yeah, full on. He's your man from Network. Yeah.
Right. So they storm in and they've got a gun that shoots around corners. That was pretty cool. The recoilless rifle.
We spend two narration boxes just describing this gun. He's very happy with this gun.
The strange weapon launches its rocket. The corridor shakes from the impact. Wham! So we've got some panels up here of storming the building, and they're getting close. They found what Capt calls an evil George Washington, who's packing heat. The guy in a powdered wig knocks him out, and then they get to the party. Tari is having basically a party with a bunch of other people dressed in 18th century aristocratic wear, who are celebrating that the mad bomb is about to go off and they're going to take over the country. And Cap is in the background there. Nobody notices him, curiously. Kind of not who you would want to show up there if you're one of them. And we go back then to the Tari Towers building and the battle between the Coneheads and S.H.I.E.L.D. And Falcon is determined to get to the mad bomb. And by the way, I thought it was really interesting that Falcon's the leader here. He's commanding a squadron. I mean, this is kind of a uhura on Star Trek moment for any black readers, I'm thinking.
Yeah, he's the one who saves the country.
Yeah. He is, like we said, he's not Cap's sidekick. He's like a partner. Really. Yep. I mean, even though the book itself tends to make Cap a little more important because maybe he's just the more famous character with a longer history. But, in the story, certainly in Kirby's story, Falcon's an equal partner and he's commanding S.H.I.E.L.D. troops here.
But like the mad bomb, whenever it's described, whenever the villains were gloating about the mad bomb, they talked about it screaming. They talked about its scream will drive Americans mad and they'll start going on a violent spree. And Falcon overloads the machine to destroy it.
Yeah, he says, mustn't forget the details of my briefing. Got to pull this lever down to maximum sonics. And this is not really explained either. We didn't get the details. No. Kirby says, don't worry about it.
But in terms of the sort of metaphorical sort of plotting that Kirby's been doing with these last few issues, this sort of idea of America as this living thing, I feel as if Falcon has to bear the brunt of the scream. Like Falcon hears the scream that he already knows. He's familiar with the scream. He's been hearing it his entire life. Right. So he gets to bear the brunt of it instead of. I did notice there were some people of color in the military squad before in some previous panels, but like they're mostly white. Mm-hmm. So again, there's the sense of the black man has to experience this.
Mm-hmm. Whereas as we've seen, Cap is not 100% sensitive to it. You know, he
would,
it's okay.
Take it. But he wouldn't be able to do it because like his sense of America is sort of very enshrined in sort of 1940s values still. Mm-hmm. Like this idea of, oh no, we're the best.
Yeah.
We're the best country, you know. So yeah, I think there's something, again, this is what I was talking about. There's something poetic about these issues. There's something quite interesting here.
Yeah, and we get a whole page of the machine screaming and giving Falcon a really bad headache, and then just like destroying the top of the tower and revealing the mad bomb underneath it. And then it goes back to Tari's celebration, which Cap is still watching, and then he hears Heshin says, "Never fear, that duel fought 200 years ago will come full circle when I find the descendant of Captain Stephen Rogers." And Tari says, General Heshin will find this weakling, and I shall deal with him. Somewhere there is an army reject called Steve Rogers. He shall pay for what his ancestor did. Now, oddly, Cap in the background doesn't look the least bit surprised, but in the next panel, he does, his thought balloons express surprise. Good gravy, he's after me.
Right. So this is the bit I was mentioning before. Mm-hmm. I don't think that balloon belongs to Heshin. I think those both are Tori.
Well, I don't know. I mean, if that's Heshin speaking, he says he will. When I find the descendant of Captain Stephen Rogers, and then the balloon pointing to Tari says General Heshin will find this weakling. So it seems right to me.
No, you're right. You're right. Sorry. I felt like that was such a Towery focused issue that the fact that Heshin was even talking about it struck me as strange.
But I think I think the two of them discussed this back when Tari first appeared in the first issue we talked about.
Yeah, you're right.
And we saw that somehow photo from the 18th century of Captain Stephen Rogers. And we were wondering if there was going to be some time travel, and maybe that was actually 20th century Steve.
Yeah, grandfather paradox. He gives birth to himself. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I think I just was looking for it to be qualified a bit more, where it's like, you know, Tori has given me orders to find the descendant of Steve Rogers. General Heshin will find the weakling, you know, blah blah blah. Maybe that would have clarified it for me, but you're right. It's not misattributed. This is the correct dialogue balloon.
And Cap knows about this. His thought balloon shows that he had read about this duel in an old diary of Captain Stephen Rogers, that there was a duel and Rogers killed William Tari.
See, Steve, canonically, like, regardless of where his neighborhood is meant to be now, but canonically came up in very humble circumstances. Mm-hmm. Like, that's a major part of his story. It's always been the case that he's not a person of means. So I find it very odd that he would have actually read this diary, or that it would have been maintained. Unless it was like a military record and it was shown to him after he became Captain America. I don't know. But it just felt to me as if he wouldn't have had this sense of his ancestor. He wouldn't have known about this ancestor.
Yeah, possibly not. But for the story, he has to know about it. So
he has to know about it. Yeah. Yeah. Fair enough.
And he walks in and almost blows his secret identity. He says, "It seems I've been invited here after all. Well, here I am." And then he walks it back a bit and says that he's familiar enough with Steve Rogers that he's willing to fight in his stead, basically.
Yeah.
And has one of the SHIELD guys hand him 2 pistols, and he gives one to Tari, and they both got the guns at each other's chests, and, you know, Cap challenges him to shoot, and he can't do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, Captain America has all these characters, like, why is his secret identity important?
Well, yeah, in the modern era, it's become less important, but it was such a big thing of superheroes for decades that you can't reveal your secret identity or all your loved ones will be in danger.
So all his loved ones are dead.
Yeah, and as Marvel time expands, it's getting further and further in the past. Apparently, Tari's bark was worse than his bite. He was afraid that Cap was going to shoot him, although he should have known better than that. Cap doesn't kill people, but still he backs down. And just then is when the mad bomb itself explodes and it's destroyed.
Yeah, and we've got that little exchange between Falcon and Cap too.
Yeah, and now Falcon says, "How stands the nation?" in quotation marks. And Cap responds, in quotation marks, "The nation stands." And I thought, is this quoting something? And I looked into it, and all I could find was, so a writer in 1937 named Stephen Vincent Benet wrote, I guess, a book or a poem or something that's called The Devil and Daniel Webster. And in it, there's a line, "Neighbor, how stands the Union?" Not the nation. And there's no response like that the Union stands. Well, okay, then you'd bet. Okay, I've got it in front of me. After a while, you'll hear a deep voice saying, "Neighbor, how stands the Union?" Then you better answer, "The Union stands as she stood, rock-bottomed and copper-sheathed, one and indivisible, or he's liable to rear right out of the ground." At least that's what I was told when I was a youngster. So I'm not sure why Kirby is changing Union to nation. Maybe it just sounds better in the comic book. I don't know.
Right. You said that was a novel from the 1930s?
Well, so it's from 1937, The Devil and Daniel Webster, which is, what is it? Oh, it's a short story. Okay.
Yeah, it's like even the Simpsons did a riff on it as well. Like it's a known. I did a quick Google too. This page itself, there's a chap selling it at the moment. Do you want the over and under? Can you take a guess how much he's selling it for? This page?
What is like an original?
The actual page. Yep.
From the 1930s. I don't know.
The Cap story from this issue.
Oh, this Cap story.
This issue, just this page. He's selling this page.
Just this page. Okay. Yep. I don't know. I can't guess.
He's selling it for, or the offer you need to beat is $7,920.
Yikes.
I seem to have found a poem, The American Legend, which features this line. So I'm trying to zero in on the actual line itself.
So is it the nation in this case?
It seems to be something. Oh, I think, yeah, it's a line. "How stands the nation now? What never spoils have crowned his hardy brow." Okay, yeah, I think this is just a general phrase. This is The American Legend by Bayard Taylor. It's a poem. The Phi Beta Kappa Society heard the poem in 1850 at Harvard. I'm not sure if that's something that actually has significance anywhere else. I think it's just an expression. But it seems to have been something that, was maybe in circulation. Though there is a poem called The American Legend that features that phrase, I guess, is the upshot of what I was saying.
Okay. Anyway, so that's the end of the Man Bomb story. It's the end of this volume of Cap and Falcon. But we'll keep going on this Kirby stuff from his return to Marvel.
Yeah, I really like this stuff. It's really good. I think I've made it clear why I liked it, but it's just very, very interesting stuff.
Yeah, I hadn't considered the symbolic angle, but yeah, that makes the whole story make a little more sense, I think.
Yeah, it's always fun to maybe give another reading, but I think this lends itself to that.
Captain America and the Falcon, Mad Bomb is published by Marvel Comics. Emmet has recently had an essay included in the book Waxing and Waning, Essays on Moon Knight, published by Sequart. If you're enjoying our comics discussion every week, consider supporting this podcast by joining us on Patreon at patreon.com/deconcomics. And go to deconstructingcomics.com to connect to us on what used to be Twitter, on Facebook where we have both a page and a group, or on YouTube. Via our site, you can also shop on Amazon to support the show and find links to subscribe to the podcast. You can comment on any episode there or drop us a line at mail@deconstructingcomics.com. That's also the address for submitting your own comics work for possible inclusion on our spin-off podcast, Critiquing Comics. Our theme is by J.B. Anderton. In the show notes, you'll find a link to our listener survey. Help us out by following the link and giving your opinions of this podcast. A pet peeve that I trot out every so often is that mainstream media reviews of David Mazzucchelli's 2009 graphic novel Asterius Polyp focused on events in the story in order to tell what the book is about. In the case of this book, the events of the story are just a distraction. The meat of the book is in the background of the story, including the art itself. Next week, we'll represent Kumar's and my review of Asterius Polyp, episode 219, from February 15th, 2010. Till then, this is Tim, and thanks for listening to Deconstructing Comics.